let me know when you're starting.
I just did.
Oh, perfect. Thank you guys for joining us. I appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. Hope you guys enjoyed the office meeting.
Yeah.
And hope you guys get some good quality information out of this. So, what's a home sale contingency?
Contingencies put into place to protect the buyers in case they want to back out from an offer.
Yeah, you're right. Why would somebody use a home sale contingency?
If there's unexpected damages to the property that's not visible to the eye, at least at a first glance.
Home sale contingency, not home inspection contingency.
Oh, home sale.
I can't help you because I helped with the PowerPoint.
They could potentially be paying more for the house than it's actually worth, so like an appraisal contingency would help out.
Appraisal contingency would. Here, I'll give you a hint. So, for home sale contingency, somebody has a house to sell, and they need to sell their current house in order to purchase the next one.
I think is that like the bridge loan, right?
That can be a bridge loan on the lender side, but you won't have a contingency because the loan will provide for the next property, let them buy it, and then it will provide and give them time to sell their next property. But it's not like between the buyer and the seller, it's more between the buyer and the bank.
Okay.
So they might have to sell the house that they actually live in order to buy their next one. Or they might have to be like an extra property that they need to get rid of because they can't afford to carry all these properties in order to buy what they're trying to get. So it could also be when the seller needs to actually buy another property. So if the seller's living somewhere and they're like, hey, I need to purchase my next one before I leave here. That could be another one. So some people consider it, or the jargon that they use would be home of choice contingency. So there are a few reasons why somebody might actually need to use the home sale contingency. One is they need to actually get the cash out of their house in order to use that cash to then go buy the next house. Do you know of another reason why somebody might need to do home sale contingency?
No, I can't think of one off the top of my head.
That's okay.
The cash makes the most sense.
Mm-hmm. So they also need to time out their move. So they might not need to actually get the cash out of their house, but they might not want to have to move twice. So they don't want to pay storage or moving fees 2 times. So they want to get their home sold so that they can move straight to the next one they're buying. And, like I said, doesn't want to move twice, doesn't want to go to a short-term rental situation. And they cannot afford to hold both properties at the same time. Or they might have like 10 properties and they need to sell one in order to buy the 11th. We never know. So there's a couple reasons why somebody can't afford to hold 2 properties. It could be loan related. So their debt to income ratio could be a little bit off so that they can't pay for the qualifying monthly payments. It could be the fact that they actually need to get cash out of the house to actually put their 5%, 10%, 20%, 50% down on their next house. Or it could be personal budgeting. Somebody could just say, hey, I'm comfortable paying $2,000 a month. I could pay $4,000, but I don't want to. I only want to pay $2,000 a month, so I want to sell this house so I don't have to worry about paying for 2 mortgages. And it could be somebody who they might use the excuse they don't need to move. So a lot of people are moving because of a need, whether they're having a new family member, whether they're getting a job change, whether they are maybe sometimes, downsizing or upsizing. So there are reasons why people need to move. Sometimes people would like to move. So they say, hey, if I see a house that I like, I'll buy it. I've been there for a while. Maybe I'm looking in the same neighborhood and I just want to live in a different style. I'm in townhouse now, maybe I want to live in a detached. But I don't really need to move anytime soon. When it's available, it's available. So they might be like, since I don't have to move, I'm going to sell my house first. Or I want to sell my house and have the next buy be based on that because I don't want to be forced into buying something and being stuck because I like my house. I just don't love it. We are in business to help people live with it. So they want to potentially pick out the next home they live in before they actually sell their house. So what do some options look like? You can, list the house as soon as you can, and you can start writing offers to get their house on the market and start trying to get them into something else. You can wait until you get under contract with the home that they're actually looking to get, and once you're under contract with this house, then you can list their house and put it on the market. Or you can actually list the house, wait until it goes under contract, and then once it's under contract, start writing offers on the next property. So if we're gonna list the house ASAP and we're gonna start writing offers, I definitely suggest start prepping the house for market as soon as you can. So as soon as you know that, hey, we're thinking about selling, we're thinking about buying, we're willing to time it out where we can sell and buy, we're willing to get the house on the market right away, prep the house, get it on, put it coming soon, you have 3 weeks to do it, get it active and running. Make sure you price it well and aggressively, because if you overprice a house, especially with this adjusting market, then you can run into the potential that it's going to sit for a while. And if it sits for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, you might be getting pushed into other markets where you can't predict. Mm-hmm. And if you get the house listed and you start writing offers, you can list and market your house and you're not based off of a contract's timeline. Because if you're under contract with something and then you have to sell your house, you still have to meet your contract's timelines. So you're kind of confined with the flexibility in your marketing strategy, your offer strategy, and your selling strategies. And of course, you can gauge how the market's going and adjust. If you put it on the market and you price it slightly high, and it's not getting the offers in 2 weeks, you can start lowering the price. You can be proactive about it, but it gives you time to actually gauge the market versus my house is under contract and I'm under contract buying the next house and I have to close in a month. So I need to sell my house. I need to just sell it for as low as I can, get rid of it. So of course you can also wait until you get under contract with the house that they're purchasing next and then list their house. Some people are like, hey, I don't know where I'm going. I don't really want to put my house in the market because what if I get an offer and I sell it right away? I still don't know where I'm going. So I want to know where I'm going first and then the house can get active. And they're all very valid points. And if they do it that way, that gives them time to actually find the home that they like. So they're not pushed up against the wall, they're not in a bind, but they're gonna have to price it aggressively when they go to actually sell the house, because now that they're under contract, that next seller doesn't wanna wait too much for them. And many times the seller of the home that they're buying, they're gonna look at their home's value and list price to see if it's actually right for them. So when you're writing your offer, they're gonna wanna know, which house are you selling? How much are you listing it for? And if you say, hey, I'm selling this house and it's worth $300,000 and you're actually selling it for $400,000, the seller's gonna be like, that's not selling. I'm not going under contract with this person, they're not being realistic. So they have a little bit of more control over pushing you, but it does give that seller time to do repairs and get their house on the market and get it prepped. So sometimes the house isn't moving ready right away. It might take them a month to do repairs. So sure, let's start writing offers. Maybe we'll get under contract with it that month. Once we're under contract, now your house is ready, it goes active. And then you can do the contingency without having your home under contract. So this is what that first example would look like. Have you seen this contingency before? Is that blurry? Can you read it?
No, I can read it. It's just, I don't think I've seen it. I'm trying to remember if I have. No, I don't think I have.
So when it comes to home sale contingencies, they're going to be located in the addendum with clauses B.
Yeah, that's what I've seen.
So most of the regular contingencies you're going to use, all the inspection and appraisal stuff, that's going to be done with clauses A. B has all the other contingencies where you don't use this often. So the way this one works, I'll read it to you really fast. That way you can You can see it. I'll read the first section and then you read from C. Okay? I'll read up to C and you read from C on. So the way it works is it's a sale of a buyer's property contingency with kickout. So the contract is contingent until 6 p.m. on blank day. So you choose that date after credit check ratification. And that is the deadline. Upon the buyer's property located at the actual address that you're selling to close. So if the buyer does not satisfy or remove this contingency by the deadline pursuant to item 1C, which is a couple bullets below, then at any time after the deadline, but not prior to buyer satisfying or removing this contingency, either seller or buyer may declare this contract void by providing notice to the other party. The seller may continue to offer the property for sale and accept bona fide backup offers in the contract. If during the term of this contingency a backup offer is actually accepted, the seller will deliver notice to buyer requiring that the contingency be satisfied or removed pursuant to paragraph 1C below, not later than 6 p.m. on blank days after the delivery of that notice, or the contract will become void. So, it also outlines in item number B, buyer's property will be listed exclusively and actively marketed by a real estate broker and entered into multiple listing servers within 3 days of the ratification date at a price not to exceed blank. So one thing to keep in mind when you're looking at all these blanks, those are all negotiated terms. So would you like, can you see me? I don't know if this is blurry or not.
I can kind of see it. Buyer.
It would be better for me to do, or you got it?
I'll try. Buyer, foresee buyer may satisfy this contingency by delivering to seller a copy of the ratified contract of sale of buyer's property with evidence that all contingencies other than financing has been removed or waived, together with a conditional commitment for financing from an institutional lender. For the financing documents, for the financing described is said in said contract conditional commitment. The conditional commitment shall include any outstanding conditions after initial underwriter review, such as final underwriting review / audit, final title review, and other underwriting requirements, if any. The conditional commitment shall not contain any conditions for the verification of income, assets, employment, and / or obtaining a credit report, but may contain conditions for the re-verification of same, or remove this contingency by delivering to seller lender's letter stating that the financing is not contingent in any manner upon the sale, settlement, or lease of any real estate, and buyer has sufficient funds available for the down payment and closing costs necessary to complete settlement, or evidence of sufficient funds available to complete settlement without obtaining financing.
Yep. And then if the buyer satisfies the requirements of that 1C paragraph, the contract will remain contingent upon settlement of the sale of buyer's property. Settlement under this contract may not be delayed more than X days after the settlement date specified in the contract without the parties' written consent. If further delay is required to obtain coinciding settlements and the parties do not agree, then this contract will become void. If at any time after the date of ratification, the contract of the sale of buyer's property becomes void, buyer will immediately deliver notice to seller together with evidence of such voiding. Following delivery of said notice, either the seller or the buyer may declare the contract void by delivering notice to the other party. This paragraph will survive the satisfaction of this contingency. So, how does contingency actually work? You have until deadline to get the house sold. So all those little blanks are going to be your timelines that you're going to put in there. You can satisfy the contingency by delivering a copy of the ratified contract that has completed all contingencies besides financing. So you're going to give them a copy of the contract. You should have already done your home inspection contingency. You should have already done your appraisal contingency. If you have a radon contingency, you should have done that. If they have a home sale contingency, they should be done with that. Everything should be done, except the last thing you're doing is just trying to finalize the loan. And you need to get an actual conditional commitment with all outstanding conditions. So the lender will need to give you that commitment letter with all the conditions that are still left. And on that letter, those conditions cannot have anything of initial verification of income, assets, employment, credit. All that stuff should be already done. It should have probably been done before when you got the pre-approval letter. But if it hasn't been done by then, it should be done by now. But they may ask for re-verification. So initially, when they're doing that pre-approval process, you do your application or whatever, they're going to collect your income, assets, employment, credit report, depending on the time. Credit report lasts for like 90 days. They might need to re-pull credit. They might need to re-verify assets. They might need to recollect bank statements. So that's okay if it's on the commitment letter, just not the initial verification of those things. So it can be removed by delivering the lender letter. The buyer has enough money and financing is not contingent upon the sale or lease, and buyer can pay for the home's down payment and closing costs. That might be an option where somebody originally thought that they did not want to, for budgeting reasons, carry 2 mortgages. They can still afford to carry 2 mortgages, they just didn't want to come out of their pocket with it. They might be at a point now because they got that seller has a backup offer. Now they might be getting their notice saying you have to give me my X amount of day time or we're kicking you out. They might say, you know what, we really like this house. I don't mind risking and paying for 2 properties. I can just give you this letter saying that I can still qualify for it anyway because I still want the house. Or they can be able to show and close without financing. So yeah, they still might want to sell the house, but they might have enough cash for the next place. So they can just be like, I don't need a loan, I don't need to sell the house, I'll just buy it with cash and I'll deal with my house later. So some things to keep in mind about that contingency. The seller can still offer the property for sale and keep backup offers. So you're under contract, but you're not locked in completely. And there is notice delivery timeline that outlines how long the buyer has to meet contingency or seller can move on. So generally it's going to be contingent on X amount of days, that's going to be put in there, and then seller has to give X amount of notice. So seller can help determine what max price the buyer's house will be listed at. Because when you're submitting that offer with this contingency, you're going to write in there the street address, you're going to write in there the price you're going to be listing at. That seller could come counter back and say, I don't like your $350 list price. If you want to go into contract with me, you have to list your house at $300 because I need you to sell your house now. I don't want to wait 30 days for you to sell your house. I want you to go into contract tomorrow. And then if the buyers meet the contingency, there's an automatic delay timeline built in. So that last paragraph, it had a blank in there. That blank would be, hey, if we finally get under contract, but our contract says we're supposed to close in 45 days, and we get under contract with this property, and we're in day 30, and my contract's going to take 30 days, that means I need 15 more days, right? That spot right there, you would have a number automatically filled in. In a more aggressive market where the sellers don't want to take that type of thing, they're going to try to put 0 or 1 day in there. But on your end, you're going to try to put more time. So you're going to try to put 10 days, 15 days in there. That's just saying that if I get my place under contract and we're set to close and our closing timeline takes longer than your contract timeline, this will automatically push it back a week or 2. That way we have a week or 2 to close. Otherwise, everybody will just have to sign an extension saying that everybody agrees that this house will close on X or Y date, which could or could not be, okay. If they're getting backup offers and the backup offer's higher, they might not want to wait that long because they want to kick you out so they can take the other offer. So if you want to wait until the house is actually under contract before you start writing offers, that's good because sellers can test the market to kind of see how much they can get for their house. So they kind of have an idea of if they wanted to push their price point, they're not forced into listing it at a certain price point. They can actually try to get the pricing they like. And this is what the contingency looks like. This is that same general clause as B. This is number 2. If your house is not under contract yet. So what it says is this contract is contingent upon the settlement on the contract located at blank. A copy of said contract is attached, evidencing that all contingencies other than financing have been removed or waived, together with a conditional commitment for financing from an institutional lender for the financing described in said contract, the conditional commitment. The conditional commitment shall include any outstanding conditions after initial underwriter review, such as final underwriting review / audit, final title review, and other underwriting requirements, if any. The conditional commitment shall not contain any conditions of verification of assets, income, employment, credit report, but may contain conditions of re-verification. So it has an automatic timeline built in as well. Settlement for this contract may not be delayed more than X days after settlement date without the parties' written consent. Further delays required to obtain coinciding settlements, and the parties do not agree, the contract will become void. So it's similar to that last contract. So how this contingency works is for this house, we already have a contract on our current place that's set to actually close, but we need to buy our next place. So we're going to be trying to time out our settlement of our current house with the one which we're trying to buy. So we're going to try to base everything off of our contract timelines, and we're going to be trying to match up the new contract with that. Some things to keep in mind about the contingency. So the buyer should be able to provide the contract that they have on their house that they're selling to the seller of the house they're trying to purchase. So that seller is going to say, hey, I want to see that you're actually under contract. I need your contract because they want to see all the terms. And that seller is going to see it, and they're going to decide, do I like their contract? Do I not like their contract? Do I want to adjust it? So the contract that you give them should also have all the contingencies met except financing to get conditional approval. So that buyer should have gone through their inspection and their appraisals, whatever they needed to do on their end of the house that you're selling. And as the other contingency, only re-verification of conditions of income and asset employment can be included. So that last contingency is that home choice contingency. That's for when the seller's looking to get something that they want to move into. So that's going to be addendum clauses B. That's section number 4. So this contract is contingent upon until 6 p.m. on the blank day after ratification to allow the seller to purchase another home. This contingency will terminate at the deadline, and the contract will be in full force and effect unless prior to the deadline the seller delivers a notice to the buyer removing the contingency or delivering a notice declaring the contract void. So this contingency works. Seller has until X amount of day to buy that next home they're trying to get. And some things to keep in mind about the contingency. The contingency terminates a deadline. So if the seller does not remove the contingency, they're automatically stuck into the contract because the contingency is just automatically removed. So if they don't void it, they're moving forward. And the seller can either remove the contingency by finding a home, or they could just void the contract and say they don't want to continue with it anymore. So before we get into some fun ways to leverage these, one thing that you guys should notice with all of these, when you're getting out of any of these contingencies, it involves a void. So your void should always be referred back to your deposit paragraph of who gets EMD. But theoretically and generally when something's void, it's not a default, so that EMD should go back to purchaser.
Okay.
Or in the case, always purchaser. Even if the seller voids it, it should go back to purchaser. So it shouldn't be like they didn't continue with the term of the contract, we're keeping your money. It should be like, this is the term of the contract, here's your money back. So there are a couple fun ways to leverage this contingency. Before we go into that, did you have any questions about the contingencies themselves?
Why is it always financing commitment excluded from the rest?
because financing is generally the last one, it takes the longest. So sometimes you won't even get the clear close like the day of. So that's like a contingency where you fall apart with some financing, you can't buy the house, the lender not give you the money. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to mitigate to say you have a loan commitment, the lender's committing to it, they're just finishing up the file. So they should still know that your credit score meets the recommendation from the beginning, your income meets your recommendation from the beginning, your assets meet the recommendation from the beginning. And then like, if they do rear verification and then something doesn't coincide, like your credit dropped or like you lost your job because you decided to quit, or like you spend all your money, you don't have the down payment anymore, that might be a situation where there's a default in place. That's a different contingency. So that's why the financing one is just like, everything else has to be done because we don't want you to walk away based on appraisal. We don't want you to walk away based on inspection. We don't want you to walk away based on HOA docs or condo docs anymore. Because we done got so far being on a contract. Sometimes it takes like 60 days, 90 days to time out everything. We don't want to be on a contract for 3 months and then somebody default or something that could be avoidable. So some fun ways to leverage. I like to combine these. I like to combine with a post-settlement occupancy, so a rent back. So let's say I have a house to sell and then I need to time it out with the house I'm gonna buy. Maybe I'll sell my house and as a way to settle on the next house, I rent it back for a little bit from the new purchasers. I time out settlement that way. Or maybe I combine it with a pre-settlement occupancy. I have a house to sell, I wanna get that on the market, I need to sell it before I buy the next house, but the next house is vacant. Similar to like I was telling you about the other transaction we did in Virginia, where the buyer moved in early and did like a post-settlement occupancy, and then, you know, waiting to close, just like that. So it's like, hey, let me move into your next house, that way I can sell my house vacant. And you can kind of match those things up. We'll talk about the actual post-settlement and pre-settlement occupancies in a different training class too. So we go over the specifics and the rules around that, your game plan. So how does all this actually relate to the current market? How does this make sense, work for us? Why do we care? Why does it matter? Some sellers right now are leery to sell because of low inventory and them finding their next house. Because as you know, as we're doing searches, we're seeing that, hey, it's not as many places as there were out there last year. So some sellers are like, where am I gonna go? I don't wanna be homeless. I wanna know where I'm going. And then interest rates have spiked or doubled. So a lot of people can't afford as much as they used to. Because if you were selling your house in 2021, you were getting like a 2.3% interest rate. You can afford to carry 2 mortgages. Right now you buy something like a 5 or 6% interest rate. You might not be able to afford the same payment twice because you're doubling up now. So now you have to actually sell your house to get your next one because you can't afford to carry it. And then with longer days on the market, timing it out can be a little bit more difficult to transition because you don't know that your house is going to go under contract within a week, like we were guaranteed before. It might take 30 days to get under contract. It might take a month or 2. So when you're writing that next offer, you have to make sure that you time it out right. So here's something for you guys to always remember. If you set your goals ridiculously high and it's a failure, you'll fail above everyone else's success. So make sure that anything that you are trying to do, 10x it. Do bigger than you would thought. So next week we will do another training. We will send out the emails with like the exact date and time. It should be a Tuesday, probably around the same time. But we might go into either a different contingency or that referral process that Leona was talking about. I think that would be really good too. Okay. And if you guys have any other training topics that you want, definitely let me know.
I'll think about it.
Yeah.
I think I would probably just go into like further reviewing more contracts, general like dates and for once we like put on that general like days we would put for deadlines like so I kind of like find best ways to like I don't know, just like I'm interested in learning more about the contracts and like when we can put deadlines. I feel like I don't know too much about that.
Okay, that's a good one, definitely. Perfect. Okay. So we'll do some contact contingency deadline trainings. That should be fun. And of course, it's going to all depend on the market too. So.